All right, welcome everyone to our Digging Deeper session using video and commentary to reflect and improve practice. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay, there are a lot of different teacher performance assessments going into the 25-26 academic year. And I wanted to just take a moment and quickly say, there's CalAPA. There's 3 cycles within CalAPA, and CalAPA is in version 8 this year. So you see that teal color, you're looking at CalAPA documents. CalTPA, that green color, you'll see that one for our multiple subjects candidates, single subject candidates, world language candidates. So that's where you'll see green, and each one of those different groups has different sets of assessments that they would complete. Our PK3 ECE CalTPA is that purple color, and you'll see that theme throughout the assessment guide and templates. So if you have a PK3 program that you are running in your institution, they would use the CalTPA for PK3. Now, there was a change in the law that recently came through in PSA before, when PK3 wasn't operational. PK3 programs could choose to use the multiple subject version of the teacher performance assessment, but that no longer exists in statute. So if you have candidates who are in a multiple subjects program, they complete the multiple subjects CalTPA. If they're in a PK3 setting, they complete, or a PK3 program, they need to complete the PK3 TPA. So we've had the question before, well, I have a candidate that's in a multiple subject setting, but they're in a TK classroom. Do they do the PK3 CalTPA? And the answer is no. We do have space and explanation for folks who are in TK settings in CalTPA and in the multiple subjects version. The version of the assessment needs to align with the program and the credential they are completing. The other question is, especially in our ed-sped world, because now there are 5 different versions, I have a candidate that's in a dual program. They're earning an MMSN and an ESN credential at the same time. Which Cal TPA do they take in that instance? And in that instance, they would choose. They take one they take cycle, or they take the MPA and LPA in MMSN or in ESN. And if you have any other questions about mixing, matching cycles, depending upon clinical practice placements, please email us before you advise a candidate. We want to make sure that they are successful and that you have this information. And as you can see, there's a lot of different teacher performance assessments that are available now. So any questions you have about advising folks, please let us know. Julie, did I miss anything about this? Anything to add?
Perfect.
Okay. I usually am, so it's perfect.
Yeah, no.
Just kidding. So I just wanted to make sure, and there are 5 different versions of the Cal TPA for education specialists, the mild moderate support needs and the extensive support needs, which were operational for the past 3 years, and we're going into a 4th year with those, but they are all versioning to version 1, Cal TPA, PK3, and EdSped version 1, simply because of the significant changes necessitated by SB 488 and folding in the literacy requirement into what was cycle 2, but is now the literacy performance assessment. So there's mild, moderate support needs, extensive support needs, early childhood, special education, visual impairments, and deaf and hard of hearing. And there was an email that went out today or yesterday to the ECSE community, and some of you that may be here from there. Going forward, all ECSE credentials require a teacher performance assessment. So you might have some folks that are finishing out program that started program before July 1st, 2025. Please, if you have any questions about how to advise those folks, go ahead and email us so we can help guide you going forward. But candidates who started an ECSE credentialing program on or after July 1st, 2025 are required to complete both Cycle 1 and Cycle 2 of the ECSE CalTPA. And I believe CalTPA is the only version that is available. I don't think EdTPA has a version of this performance assessment at this time. So. So just wanted to make sure I covered a little bit of that because there are a lot of different moving parts this year. All right, let's go ahead and go to the next slide. We have, this is our agenda. We're having introductions, norms, some outcomes. We have a Google resource folder. We have the CalPA structure, and it says CalPA because TPA for teachers and APA for administrators. So, but when we're talking about performance assessment and these digging deeper sessions will be for both audiences. So some of you are here for CalTPA, some of you are here for CalAPA. We will be talking about both these performance assessments with regard to commentary and video. We'll be talking specifically about commentary with the CalTPA and commentary for CalAPA, and then upcoming program supports and contact information. Go ahead and go to the next slide. My name is Marissa. I am a consultant here with the Performance Assessment Development Team. I'm joined by my colleague Julie. Julie, you want to say hello?
Yes. Hello. Hi, everyone. I'm Julie Holmes. I'm another one of the consultants on the performance assessment team. It's great to have you all here today.
Not sure if Juliet is here, but if she is, stop me. But if not, she's our director. The commission has been reorganized into some different branches, and the Division of Research, Evaluation, and Assessment has been created. And under that umbrella, that was kind of July 1, 2025. Under that umbrella now exists the Cal TPA, Cal APA, and then exams as well. So they were part of Professional Services Division, PSD, but now we work alongside with PSD. So that was a little bit of a shift that happened here at the commission. We also have our partners at Evaluation Systems of Pearson team. Dr. Nichols, he's the Director of Assessment Programs. Many of you have met Reggie before. And Lori Thornley is the Program Manager. And we're joined today by Dr. Webb. You want to say hello?
Evening, everyone. Good to see you. I'm Xavier Webb, a Senior area Director with Evaluation System Group at Pearson, and just work very closely with the CTC on the development and implementation of all the performance assessments. So glad to have you here today, and I appreciate you joining us.
All right. Probably head over to the next slide. Okay, well, that's who we are, and we'd like if you could please in the chat feature sign in your name, your position, and your institution, so we can see who's in the room. All right. And I think while folks are signing in, we can go ahead and head to the next slide. So some norms for today. If you could keep your microphone muted unless you are speaking. It's helpful if your camera is on, but we completely understand if your camera is off or it's unable to be on. Please use the chat feature to post questions that are related to the current topic. I know there are a lot of questions around these version 1 documents that are coming out on September 23rd. We do have our email addresses that you can send us questions to, so that way we can absolutely answer those questions for you. But if you use the chat feature to pop questions in there, and between Julie and I and Xavier, we are all paying attention to that, and we'll elevate them, especially for the recording. If a good question comes in the chat, even if it's answered, we'll answer it again for the purposes of the recording. avoid multitasking during the webinar, which is always a challenge for everyone to do. But we want to make sure that we're paying attention, and because many questions will be answered as we go along. And then honor time for all participants by moderating your participation. We are it's a decent sized group here today, but we do want this to be a time and space for collaboration, for conversation, and for you all to share some of your best practices. Today we are going to be talking about the rubrics, and we're going to be talking about the templates. We had planned for this Digging Deeper session to actually be later in the year because of the desire to invite programs to talk about how they use video and commentary to improve practice. But because of the timing and making sure that everyone had the materials, we did move it up. But it would be an excellent topic for a Meredith Fellows Implementation Conference presentation. And so keep in mind, those of you that might be interested in presenting how you use video and commentary to coach candidates, so that way we can potentially have you present at that conference that will be this spring. Okay, the resource folder. I think that we have the resource for that. Maybe we can drop it again in the chat. But this will include the watermark drafts of all the CalTPA assessment guides and the lesson plan template. Those were released at individual meetings, but then we also compiled them. So you can have access to all of them in one folder. We do have watermark drafts of commentary templates for mild moderate support needs MPA and for the multiple subjects LPA. All the commentary topics and questions and prompts are listed in the assessment guide, but it's helpful, I know, to see the actual template with it on there. And so if you're looking at this, you're like, wow, I don't coordinate a multiple subject program or a mild moderate support needs program. We hope that you can use the format of that template and the questions posed in the assessment guide to visualize what the template will look like for your program. We do have version 8 materials for the CalAPA, and those assessment guides and commentary templates are released, and they are what we're using for version 8. And then there is a copy of the errata that just went out with a few of the corrections that were made for cycle 2 for the CalAPA. So that information is there, and it was also emailed out to program coordinators. And then again, we will be putting this slide deck into the Google folder after today's presentation. So that way we will flatten it, put it into a PDF, and you'll have the access to the links that are embedded in the slides. All right, CalAPA structure and theory of action. For CalAPA, there are 3 leadership cycles. And in cycle 1, the candidate is asked to analyze data to inform school improvement and promote equity. And they go through the steps of investigate, plan, act, and reflect. And in leadership cycle 1, the candidates do not complete video or any type of meeting or yeah, and they do have the option for their reflection to be video, but they are not asked to video record any type of meeting, so they don't have commentary. But in cycles 2 and 3, cycle 2, facilitating communities of practice and supporting teacher growth, they do meet with others. Community of practice in cycle 2, where they have a meeting that they don't video record, but where they choose an equity, a problem of practice, and then they choose a strategy to address that problem of practice, and then they hold 3 implementation meetings to see how their implementation of that strategy is going with the different members of the PLC. And so they will do commentary in that space. And then leadership cycle 3, the candidate is supporting a teacher. They are coaching a teacher. And so there are two places in that cycle where a candidate uses commentary, the pre-conference and the post-conference. And so we'll be talking about those today. Okay, go to the next slide. And I was going to turn this over to Julie to talk about the CalTPA structure. And I did kind of talk a little bit about some of this at the beginning with the color coding, but I wanted to make sure that I give Julie an opportunity to talk about the CalTPA structure and theory of action.
Yes. Again, welcome everyone. And we're just so glad you're here. So just as a refresher for all of you about the CalTPA structure, there are 2 cycles. Now for PK3 multiple subjects and the 5 ed specialist areas, those candidates moving forward for version 1 complete the math cycle and the literacy cycle. And the math performance assessment, or you can call it the math cycle or the MPA, either is fine. That is, learning about students and planning a math lesson. That's planning one lesson. And the literacy performance assessment is assessment-driven literacy instruction. And then for single subject and world language, they still have the cycle 1 and cycle 2 structure. Cycle 1 is the same thing, learning about students and planning their content-specific lesson. And cycle 2 is assessment-driven instruction as well. So within each of those 2 cycles, there are 4 steps: the plan, teach and assess, reflect, and apply. In step 1 planning, they're designing their lesson or their lessons, depending on which cycle they're doing. So for math or cycle 1, they're doing 1 lesson. And for literacy and cycle 2, they're planning 3 to 5 lessons. And then for step 2, they're teaching and assessing. They're teaching their lesson or their lessons, and they're collecting evidence to analyze, monitor student learning, or collecting evidence of student learning for assessment purposes for literacy in cycle 2. In step 3, they reflect, analyze what happened and why. And then in step 4, they apply all that they have learned for future steps for instruction and how they might improve future teaching. So that is a refresher on the 9 different credential versions for CalTPA. And let's move on and talk about why we're here today. Really digging deep into what is commentary, what does this mean moving forward? The field, unless, as Marissa mentioned, unless you're in the field test or the pilot, you and your candidates might be used to the annotations. So commentary is very similar, but it is expanded. Annotation had a word limit, and annotation was tied to a specific video, whereas commentary is a little more open. It's a little scary to the field, and we get that. So we really want to really talk about that today, describe it, illustrate it for all of you so it's not so scary. And we're going to show you what the template looks like, and we'll look at the rubrics. But, our purpose today really is to just deepen your understanding of how the video and the commentary work together, and so that candidates and your candidates can practice that evidence-based commentary that directly aligns to the teaching that's in the video clips that they have submitted. And that piece is very important, that alignment. So really, we're going to talk about why the video and the commentary matter. Now, moving forward in the new versions, video is submitted in part E, where they upload their clip or their clips. And then the part F commentary corroborates what we're seeing in those videos. And that's where the candidate goes into depth about the why of what's happening. Marissa and I were joking earlier because a candidate in their video is not teaching and then all of a sudden looks at the camera and goes, here's my UDL strategy. And then they go back to teaching. So, what we're seeing in the videos it's not always, can be interpreted. So that's where the commentary comes into play. And that's where the candidate can really point to that evidence. So here's the definition that is in the assessment guide. So for commentary, candidates have a choice. It can be a written commentary, it can be verbal, or it can be American Sign Language. Now, what verbal commentary means is that they are not using the written commentary template. Instead, they are turning on their camera and they are speaking authentically to the camera and recording just a verbal response to align with what we're seeing in the video and answering the different prompts that are in part E. Um, so as the candidate is responding to the prompts that relate to their video clips, that's a very important piece. It has to relate. We want to see that evidence. So they're describing what is happening and providing that rationale for what they're doing and why. We can't always tell. We can see what they're doing. That's the what, but the how and the why, that's where they can kind of really go into depth about that. So again, we're asking that candidates are as specific as possible and point to evidence. So really citing that evidence in their commentary, whether it's written or verbal or American Sign Language, and they're describing the dialogue, the event, the student in particular, whatever it is that they want to point out as evidence. So again, that commentary should and must align to what is provided in the video clips of their instruction. Some commentary tips, helpful tips. So when candidates write or explain their commentary, they want to connect, of course, connect those responses directly to what's happening in their video. So we'll look at the template in a minute and we'll talk more about that, but keep that point in mind. They're describing what is happening and explaining the reasons for their choices. They're going to point to exact evidence, again, citing that evidence. Example might be like at 1 minute, 20 seconds, in clip 3, the student in the blue shirt by the window. So they're very specific. And they're going to keep that commentary consistent to what is actually seen in the video. All right, so much anticipated. Let's look at the next slide, which is the mild moderate math cycle. And this is rubric 1.5. This is in step 2. And we're going to pull up the commentary, part F, in just a minute. But I just want to point out again for your candidates to start with the essential question. It frames the rubric, and scoring always starts at level 3. So we're just going to look real quickly at level 3. There's 2 constructs where the candidate is creating and sustaining a safe, positive learning environment during the math lesson. So that's one construct. And next, the candidate is using UDL focused strategy or strategies. It could be one thing, it could be more than one, to support their students in making progress towards meeting the math content and their math practice and the math ALD learning goals. ALD stands for Academic Language Development, which is specific to the math cycle and cycle 1. So that's another big shift as well. All right, so let's go ahead and if you could pull up the template and we'll put a link in the chat so that you can look at it as well.
And the template is in that Google folder. So you should already have access to it. If you don't already have the Google folder, we could
go ahead and maybe follow along. So here is the commentary template that supports the work that they're doing and the videos that they are submitting. Okay, so mild, moderate support needs. This is step 2, teach and assess. And as you scroll down just a little bit, you will see what is in gray are the prompts. Now, as Marissa described, these prompts are exactly what you will see in the assessment guide. So again, they're on the template to remind the candidate exactly what they need to be pointing out, what they need to be describing and explaining in their commentary. And as we scroll down, you will see video 1, video 2, video 3. Because in the math cycle and in cycle 1, they can submit 1 video, 2 videos, or up to 3 videos. It is their choice. Again, it cannot total more than 15 minutes. So if they were in theory to submit 1 video, that's fine. If they can capture everything in 1 video, great. That's okay too. If they want to submit 2, that's why video 2 says if submitted, because they don't have to, but they can. And again, video 3 if submitted. So again, that's a choice point. And we did see that a lot in the field test where candidates would do 1, 2 videos or all 3. So again, let your candidates know that it's fine. They don't have to do 3, but they certainly can. So video 1 in the brackets, that is where they're describing what is happening in the video and providing that rationale. Again, that alignment, showcasing what is in the video and describing what's happening. So that's very important to have that deep alignment. If we think back to the rubric that we just talked about, so how does this work together? So having that rubric, looking again at the prompts, and now here they're describing in the commentary, written, verbal, or ASL, exactly what's going on and describing that how. So in the commentary, they might explain that, they might point to a moment in the video where they are creating and sustaining that safe, positive learning environment. And then let's say that's in video 1. And so they would point to that. And then let's say in video 3, for example, that's where a clip that they're going to submit really highlights their use of UDL focused strategies that were supporting their students. So that is where in video 3, they would provide that evidence really pointing to that exact piece of evidence that they want us to look at in the video that aligns with how they were using that UDL strategy or strategies to really support the students' progress in meeting the math content and the math ALD learning goal. So again, just, strong tips for your candidates. Just anchoring that evidence with timestamps is very helpful. Like the example that we showed you, like at minute 1.2 in video clip 3, this happened. So really anchoring it in those timestamps is extremely helpful because it gives us those really observable details. They can quote or describe that specific dialogue. You might remember in the video at 3 minutes and 45 seconds, the student in the red shirt and I were discussing this math problem, blah, blah, blah. So they can really, quote and describe those that dialogue, the actions, their thinking, the outcome, and they just connecting it to the why behind their instructional choices and decisions. And this really ensures that the commentary is aligned. Again, the commentary aligning to the teaching in the videos. So I hope this is helpful for all of the math cycle and cycle 1 folks out there. All right, and now we can go look at oh good, I love it. All right, now we can go look at a literacy example. This is from the multiple subjects. That is the literacy cycle or the LPA. All right, let me pull up my notes as well. Okay, again, framing out that essential question that frames out the rubric. Looking at level 3, you'll notice there's 1, 2, 3 constructs. So we're going to look at those 3 constructs real quick. That the candidate teaches the selected additional theme or themes from the ELA/ELD framework to actively engage students in the lesson or lessons. So again, that's 1 construct. Clearly explaining why their instruction in the selected additional theme actively engages students and supports their progress. And the candidate is intentionally providing appropriate integrated ELD to support their students. All right, so let's pull up the template from multiple subjects. Literacy, LPA. All right. Thank you so much, Xavier. All right, so here is the Part F commentary from step 2. As we scroll down and we look at what is in gray, these are the prompts exactly from what they have in the assessment guide. This is what they are answering throughout this commentary template, either written or verbal or ASL, that's okay. And so again, in the literacy cycle and in cycle 2, they can submit up to 4 videos, totaling up to 20 minutes. So math cycle in cycle 1 is 3 videos, totaling up to 15 minutes. And literacy in cycle 2 is up to 4 videos and up no more than 20 minutes of video time. So again, it's structured exactly like what just showed you before, where they have to at least submit one video. So video clip 1, describing what's happening and providing that rationale. And then, of course, video clip 2, 3, and 4 are optional. Lisa, no, this does not include the follow-up lesson. That's going to be in step 4. Great question. Um, so as we look at this, they are, if we just look at the prompts real quick, describing what you did to create and sustain that safe, positive learning environment. Were these strategies effective? Why or why not? So here the candidate is going to point to that point in their video clip where they were creating and sustaining that safe, positive learning environment and talking about the strategies and explaining the why or why not. So maybe let's say that happened in video clip 3. So they would go into depth when they're writing in the template about video clip 3 about their safe and positive learning environment and why the strategy that they planned for and taught was effective. Again, observable evidence pointing to a timestamp is extremely helpful. Quoting that specific dialogue, anything that the candidate can point to that clear evidence is so incredibly helpful for the assessor as they're looking at their work. And, it's great for the candidate too to kind of check all the prompts that they've answered them. Yes, I've done this. This was in video clip 3 and I've answered this clearly. And so to go through that, just talking about explaining the why behind their direct and systematic approach, explaining the how of how their approach and their specific language supported students in making progress, explaining the how their strategies, supported the ELD goals that they created. So again, just going into depth about all of that. So key takeaways from this work really is a strong commentary is really pointing to specific and evidence-based what am I trying to say? Just pointing to that evidence-based evidence. What am I trying to say here? Pointing to that evidence-based moment in their video clip. So we want that alignment to the video, and I cannot stress that enough. So what is seen in the video should be corroborated in the Part F commentary. So it just really gives the candidate and it gives us, the assessor, that demonstration of the connection between what is seen and the candidate's reasoning. Yeah, we all have those moments. Thank you. I'm like, well, I can't find the word. So the template reads math cycle on the top. Are they identical? Good
The
point.
templates are also in the Google folder. We just pulled the links out and I checked them. There's one for MPA and there's one for LPA.
Scroll up.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
this might be. If you could, it just might be.
One is green on top, and that's for
It does say math cycle.
yeah, it does say math cycle, but this one is um oh,
It's
they are
math.
both
It
for
is math.
math. Oh,
Okay, well,
goodness.
we gave
Apologies.
you 2 math cycle, but it should be in the folder. I'll double check when Marissa's presenting.
Hmm.
Um, but again, these commentary, besides the prompts, the commentary template looks exactly the same across math, literacy, cycle 1, cycle 2. It's just that the prompts are different. And of course, the number of videos that they can submit. But yeah, thanks for pointing that out. Sorry about that. All right.
Again, all of these documents are absolutely still in production. That's why they
Yeah.
all say draft. We haven't even seen the official versions of them yet, and
Yeah.
everything will be released on the 23rd. The purpose of providing a template here was to
Mhm.
show how the template would look. And so if you wanted to just go through and delete what it says here and just copy and paste in what it says in the assessment guide, then that's what it will be. So it's just to help to provide a visual.
Yeah.
Mhm. And we'll
All
check in because we may have watermark drafts of more commentary templates that we might be able to add to the folder after this presentation. We'll just check in with our production team.
Yeah, you've got the link, so we can always add in the right things. But questions so far on CalTPA and the Ed Specialist CalTPA about commentary template. Hopefully that alleviates a little bit of stress and worry as we shift from annotations over to commentary. We actually had a lot of great feedback during the pilot and the field test on the use of the commentary template. The candidate really appreciated having the space to go into more detail so that they could provide more evidence and point to evidence in their video clips. Yes, again, it's just something new. But thank you, Stacy. Yes, you were part of the field test. So great. We will hope this alleviates a little bit of pressure. I will turn it over to you, Marissa, for CalAPA.
Sure, but real quick, in the folder, they should just be right when you open the folder. They're not in the fold. Like, so there's a bunch of different folders, and those have the assessment guide and the learning segment template. I just dropped if you see the watermark draft of commentary, that's where those are. So there was a
Oh,
question. Someone was looking in the folder to try to find. I just put them right on top because we've kind of been making these presentations a lot, and so we're trying to put as much as we possibly can into. And I don't want to. I didn't want to accordion them so much that they were challenging to find. So they're right there on top. And then we also have another question about editing videos across PA. And yes, candidates are able to edit their videos across PA. They would just and they would just need to make sure that they identify the minute and seconds in the video in their commentary where they're addressing the requirements of the rubric. So,
a question about
so
samples. Yeah. Will
yeah,
samples from the pilot be released or not because it was a pilot?
it
Well, yeah, go ahead. If
There's
you're
there's two there's two schools of thought about it, right? Because there were things that we saw in the pilot that we absolutely changed because we had data from candidates that showed that it wasn't a strong way to ask a question and that folks were having misconceptions and misunderstandings, gaps in knowledge. And so we did shift things around for the actual version 1. And so while we do have some stuff from the pilot, I don't know about you, Julie, but I don't think we feel comfortable putting too much out there that's not going to be a solid example. And so we are going to be accepting and that's part of the reason for the passing standard being set to 16 and 14 for secondary. That's also part of the reason why we have taken out the stipulation that they could receive no more than 1-1 for the score for this year, and we'll be doing standard setting in the spring. We are going to be working to get mid-range submissions for all of the different credential areas as soon as possible, but we have to get them out there and then start accepting them and being able to score them to be able to put out this version's samples. So absolutely. We're working toward that. It's hard to put out chunks of things like part of a field test of this. It's hard to not look at it holistically, especially when you're looking at like cycle 2 and especially and actually in both the LPA and the MPA, right? When you want the plan to connect with what they're teaching and assessing to what they reflect on and to how they apply. If we only put out a part of something that aligned with version 1 and not another part, then you're not able to see the whole thing. So there's a lot of conversation around this, but we
mhm,
absolutely are working to get samples out there because we know how powerful mentor materials can be for candidates' success.
mhm. There's a question about editing videos. It's a need for candidate support. And so requesting for a workshop for instructing faculty on how to assist candidates with
Yeah, and
getting.
sure. And we are having those PLC meetings that are going to be starting
Yeah,
up in October. And Mari, maybe that's what we can make one of the conversations about that and have some IT folks maybe come on and talk to programs about some best practices. Candidates are not required to edit videos. Absolutely, they can
right.
submit continuous unedited videos, or they can edit videos. And it's sometimes the challenge around that is that everybody has a different computer in front of them and different programs available to them. And we, as the commission, do not say use this one program or use this one platform. That's up to individual institutions and what they have subscriptions to, what candidates have access to. And so we can absolutely have a conversation about it and maybe pull together some of those really savvy folks that can, help to support one another, because that's what the intention behind the PLCs for TPA and APA is, bringing a community together to support one another around improving practices for all teachers and administrators in California. And so thank you for that. And maybe
Yeah,
we
that's
can
a
maybe
great
we
one.
can make that as one of our early topics.
I was going to say you would not want to attend a workshop that I would provide on video edits. We would need to bring in some professionals. And we will announce those PLC dates in PSDE news.
Yeah, they're going to be the second Friday of every month, and the first one starting up in October. So we'll be sending that out pretty soon. And the CalTPA PLC is going to be from 9 to 10 a.m. on those Fridays, and then the CalAPA is going to be from 11 to 12 on those
Yeah.
Fridays. So we absolutely are holding those meetings, and one is probably coming up pretty soon here,
Yeah.
Julie, in
And
about a month.
there's another great idea for a PLC in the chat. Recommendations for good audio. That's a really important piece for video.
Mhm.
So yeah, I really appreciate these suggestions. I'm going to write these down so we can think about these for October.
No,
Thank you.
absolutely. And again, we as commission, we don't say use this brand or use this platform or use this piece. We don't do that. But as programs, you may talk with one another and talk about where you've seen candidates have success. When I was at UC and when I was at a county office of ed, we would talk with our own IT departments as what we had available and had them come in and talk to candidates around some of this. I used to arrange for student assistants from IT to be able to talk to and manage with candidates so they could get help individually. And that's one of the required supports for the PA, is to be able to support candidates around some of these things. But yeah, absolutely, we can bring folks together and have them have a conversation, and that's going to be in early October. So.
Yeah, yeah, thank you.
All right. And there was another question about trying to get a commentary template from the LPA into the resource folder. We absolutely will check in and see if there is a watermark draft of a commentary template that we can drop in to that Google folder. We will absolutely, if we are able to get one, we'll send out a notification that the Google folder was updated with a watermark draft.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
going to look for it now while you're.
yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, narrative analysis. So now we are talking about CalAPA. So this term is from the glossary, and this is literally the definition that is in the glossary of the CalAPA guidebooks, but assessment guides, apologies. A narrative analysis focuses on interpreting narratives from a group's personal stories to understand how the individuals experienced something. Candidates are asked to provide an analysis of their conversations in their videos, explaining the motivation, skills, and tactics used in order to achieve an anticipated result. So, understanding motivation, skills, and tactics. This is what the candidate will be describing in their commentary. We do have a few folks on here from CalAPA world. Um, if you have anything to add to this narrative analysis, because this is not uh, a new top term, but if you have anything to add to what I'm going to talk about with commentary, I would welcome the conversation. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next slide. So this is rubric 2.5, so cycle 2, looking at a level 3. This is where in step 3 act is where the candidate submits their videos of their implementation meetings, and they need to demonstrate facilitation skills that support group learning during the implementation meetings, which might include documenting group decisions, respecting diverse viewpoints, and or maintaining group focus and energy while facilitating a collaborative process of group consensus. And then the candidate's commentary provides a narrative analysis of their facilitation of the group learning. So if we could jump over to the template for this step, I believe it's in there.
So which ones you want to look at?
I believe it's in the CalAPA. Let me see if I can just grab it really quick. Do do do. Okay, come on. Copy a link. I believe it's this one. Just dropped it in the chat. If we could pull that one up, that'd be greatly appreciated.
I was going to at the same time as I said.
All right. So this is commentary for 3 video clips from the implementation meetings. Um, one one concern has always been that candidates in cycle 2 mistake the planning meeting with the implementation meetings. The planning meeting is where they come together to develop the problem of practice and then decide what strategy they're going to implement over these meetings. But these 3 meetings are intended to check in. They almost should be like check-in, data check-ins. How are we doing with this strategy? And so if we scroll a little bit down, the candidates have up to 8 pages and they answer these questions as they relate across their 3 videos. So describe how you set the purpose for the meeting and reviewed the problem of practice with the group, right? So they would have had that meeting already, and then they are setting the purpose for this meeting. Describe how you and the community of practice evaluated data from the implementation of the selected evidence-based strategy. So they have selected this strategy based on a problem of practice, and they're implementing it with students. Now, if you came to the cycle 2 deep dive and I stumbled over this problem of practice question, I apologize. But the implementation meetings need to be with students. A problem of practice can't be that teachers are not culturally responsive in our setting, so we're going to read a book and I'm going to give teachers quizzes on problems of practice. That's not on their knowledge around culturally responsive teaching. If this is supposed to be a check-in and evaluation of data of how students are doing with the implementation of that selected evidence-based strategy. Then they would describe agreements or decisions made by the group and describe how they valued, respected diverse viewpoints, collected individual feedback, maintained the group's focus, and monitored progress towards the goals of the meeting. If we can keep scrolling down. And then how they collaborated with the group for next steps. So these prompts align across the 3 videos for CalAPA. And again, the candidate should have 3 videos from different meetings that they are going to submit, and they can, or they can even be, if they have a really great example from one meeting, they can have one or more videos from that great meeting. But they will be answering these commentary prompts as opposed to completing the annotations. Now, one thing that has been a concern as well is candidates writing stuff in commentary that didn't happen in videos. Commentary is supposed to identify something specific in a video. And again, like Julie was saying, we were making that reference to television shows where something happens and then they turn to the camera and explain something in a different space. You wouldn't if you're responding to individual and collective feedback, respond to it, then turn to the camera and said, well, see how I did that here? I'm responding to this feedback by appreciating this person. And they wouldn't do that in the middle of a meeting. The commentary is where they would do that. And so that is the important thing to understand about the commentary. It's the what they're doing in the video and then why. And then specifically talking about their motivation, skills, and tactics as they are responding to these commentary prompts. And I don't mean to call you out, and if you're not available, I absolutely understand. But Diana, we have you here. If do you have anything to add to what we're talking about in this conversation? Maybe not. Maybe the next one if you're available. But are there any? Did I miss any questions in the chat um about this commentary prompt or this commentary template?
I'm looking. Let's see. No, I think you've got them all.
Okay, let's
Yep.
get back to the slide deck
Got 'em
then.
all.
All right, let's take a look. Yes, the candidate, there is a question about the bullets being addressed. They must address the templates or the prompts in the template. Yeah. Okay. So rubric 3.3 ACT level 3. That's meeting the CAPE, right? That's meeting the California Administrator Performance Expectation. They accurately recognize and document observational evidence. The candidate observation notes are detailed enough to potentially provide CSTP guidance. And in their commentary, the candidate provides a narrative analysis of the volunteer teacher's qualities of teaching practice. So again, motivation, skills, and tactics, what they did when working with that teacher that they are coaching. And let me see if I can grab the commentary template from cycle 3. There are 2 in cycle 3 because there are opportunities to provide commentary for more than one video. So even quicker than me. Thank you. So the commentary of the post-observation meeting. So there's pre-observation meeting and the post-observation meeting. So we're looking at the pre-observation meeting and post-observation meeting. So let's go ahead and scroll down. The volunteer teacher self-assessment describing how the volunteer teacher determined their instructional needs based on that CSTP element. They would then go in and provide commentary about what's happening in the video for the lesson plan review, what student work product, classroom context, and the student's assets. This is another part where we are talking about student assets, cultural and or linguistic, and our interests. And again, when you are advising a candidate who is completing a CalTPA or a CalAPA, we always start with assuming that all the stuff that kids bring in with them, all the knowledge that they have, all the information that they and the places they come from, the languages that they have, they're assets and things that we can build upon. And we can keep scrolling down a little bit on this page. the CSTP selection. In this meeting, that's where the candidate and the volunteer teacher selected one or two CSTP elements. And the self-assessment and students of a student's assets, interests, and or learning needs, and then the coaching and observation process, describing how the candidate and the volunteer teacher collaboratively reviewed. So again, in the video, these are all the things that they are doing. In the commentary, this is where they are describing their motivations, skills, and tactics around what you see in the video. You could probably head back to the presentation. So truly, the commentary is in place of annotations where they were previously, and it is our great hope that the commentary will map to what's in the video. What we see in the video, we will see described in commentary, and it is also it was also I had talked to candidates, they had talked about how sometimes it was time consuming to go in and do the drop downs and paste in annotations to videos. And we are hoping that this commentary template along with videos will help alleviate some of that. Just getting stuff into the e-portfolio system. And as a faculty member myself, when I was teaching this, I used to actually have the candidates. I had this. I called it a annotation organizer. It was kind of like a table where the candidate would have to say what annotation they were using and then what they would put into the annotation organizer, what they would put into their e-portfolio, and then I would have them link their video to that actual document. So when we reviewed it together, we could watch the video, look at their annotation, and then look at what they had to say. And then also I would put them in with other candidates to review their videos together. Take a look at the annotation title and then what they wrote. Whereas now the commentary, I think, will also help and make that a little easier for candidates and for faculty to review videos together and look and see what commentary the candidate is including. We did have a question earlier about stitching videos together. The only caution I will say is that we want to make sure that when we are putting two things together, it's to enhance what we are asking for. So, a concern that came up in CalAPA Cycle 2 is that these meetings go by so quickly, and 5 minutes or 6 minutes of time, 5 minutes is not enough to capture all the different pieces. And so, if we could edit some things out and put things together, it might be more helpful. And so again, it's not required that a candidate edit. They will not. If we get an unedited video that meets expectations, they won't be scored down. They won't be. We won't be looked at as not as tech savvy. None of that is in the rubric. What we're looking for is evidence of that they met the essential question via the constructs in the rubric. But if you have a meeting and someone has to step away and you have to stop or pause or wait for someone to take a phone call and come back, and if it's in that continuous unedited time, then that's precious time that a candidate would need to be able to meet those rubric constructs. But I would caution candidates against like 10 seconds of this, 5 seconds of this, those kinds of things, to be able to look at it from the viewpoint of an assessor who needs to be able to review the video and see that it's meeting these rubric constructs. And flashy titles, music over things, words that go over your head, all those things, they kind of distract from the message of what's happening in the video. And so I would absolutely discourage a candidate from doing anything of that nature. Anything to add to that conversation, Julie?
No, great. Thank you.
Okay, we can go to the next slide. Okay. Before we move on to upcoming program supports or any contact information, we wanted to make sure that we opened up for any questions that we haven't answered. Was there anything in the chat that we need to address or anything that we have not addressed at this time or any questions you may have about the switch over from annotations to commentary?
You can use the chat, you could raise your hand, you can unmute.
Any ideas of how you might teach candidates through commentary as opposed to what you would do with annotations, or how you're planning to bridge that shift?
So
Um,
he's asking if the candidate is using American Sign Language, do they need to somehow indicate that with their submission so that the assessor is able to score in ASL?
I think they would just submit it in ASL, and then we'd watch a video and see that they're in
With
providing their
annotations.
evidence in ASL. And what would happen is if the assessor is not fluent in ASL themselves, they will be provided with a person who can translate
Mhm.
ASL for, so it'll be like a subject specific person, and then the ASL person will be collaborating to score.
Yes, absolutely. And in the program guide that's coming out next month, mid-October, there is a section there dedicated to those that are submitting video in ASL and some kind of tips and tricks, helpful reminders about camera angles so that we can see the entire signing field. So instead of, um, in portrait mode when they video, but maybe in landscape. Um, Make sure there's no backlighting. We need to see the whole ASL signing field, so that just be on the lookout for that. That'll be coming out next month in the program guide.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, hi Jennifer.
For night, and then my camera's not working. I wanted to, Marissa, you asked a question, and I was trying to think about your question about how we could work with our candidates for this information. And I think for me, off the top of my head, I am in the middle of doing their observations for our 6 points of contact. And I think I'd ask these questions in our post observation and say, look, these questions I'm going to ask you, tell me when in your lesson did you do these things? And
Mm.
if they can't identify it, I can say, well, this is an area you want to think about for effective teaching as well as your CalTPA. So I think that might be a way I can introduce it so that we can talk about it
Mhm.
given an observation and not for any kind of CalTPA materials.
Well, absolutely. And some of we haven't seen too many folks submit video versions of commentary, but even capturing that conversation where someone is asking a question and answering could be a way that they could submit their video commentary. They don't just have to speak direct to camera. And to me, we don't want someone to like write it all out and then read it to the camera, right? That's not really the point of it. But having a person who is a mentor, cooperating teacher, another candidate read out the questions, ask how this, and they may have notes in front of them. You might look back at the video and minute 1:20, this happened. But if you have candidates that are more comfortable with providing commentary via video, and or might be, after engaging in that practice multiple times, might be more comfortable than writing, they're absolutely able to do that.
Yeah, and Jennifer, what I think I was hearing you say is bridging that connection between what's in the CalTPA or APA, whichever one you're using, but just bringing that into that fieldwork practice is so key. Getting candidates familiar, because this is very similar to completing an observation of a candidate, and then you have that debrief conversation with them, and you're talking about these really specific moments of time that you observed during that observation. So you're having that sort of verbal conversation, I would imagine, during a debrief. And the candidate's like, oh, remember when I was having them line up to go to art class and this happened with the student who was wearing this floral shirt, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, oh yeah, I remember seeing that part. Well, here's what actually went down, and here's why that happened because, earlier that day, something, whatever. But just so having and practicing this with your fieldwork experiences is key so that when candidates then are doing the CalTPA or the Ed Specialist CalTPA or even the APA, they are familiar with providing that like evidence-based commentary to really point to specific points in time throughout what you were observing. So I think that's just a great, great idea for everyone to hear.
Thank you, Julie. That you stated that so much better than I did. You captured
No, no,
it perfectly.
your word. So that's great. I will announce I went on a hunt for the literacy Part F template, and we do not have it at this time. I could only find the two math Part F templates that are already in the Google folder. So,
We'll have to check with our production team and see if we can get one out there for the LPA. That was, I think, part of the original ask. So we'll find out where that's at, and hopefully get it into to this folder and let you all know if it is in there, when it is in there. So that way we can get it out to you so you can see the difference between the MPA and the LPA. And I know some of you are here for single subjects and world language and education special. I know everybody's here for something a little different. Again, you could just delete what's in the middle there and cut and paste from the assessment guide. Those are the prompts, but it's to me, I like having a visual of what it's actually going to look like. And so we will absolutely be getting that out to you as soon as possible. And the 23rd of September is when all materials and registration on the website launches for TPA. And you APA folks, you've had your stuff for a while, so. All right, any other ideas or conversation or thoughts that you may have had around commentary for either TPA or APA before we move forward?
Marissa, we were thinking, Joe and I were talking about this, and we were saying that we could, during our CalAPA support sessions, to incorporate some use of sentence stems, just to kind of get them practicing, like you were saying, Julie, like, this particular thing shows that dot dot dot, or this matters because blah 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 blah, or this suggests about, students learning or their needs, just giving them some sort of language around what a commentary might entail. So
yes.
No, absolutely. And sentence stems and frames are so helpful for students in general. And so they would absolutely be welcome for candidates. And what they do is again frame exactly what we're asking. I recognize that there are a lot of templates and materials associated with an upload of a CalTPA, and someone looks at it and goes, how am I ever going to do this with all of these classes I'm taking and this job that I have and these kids that I got to get to soccer practice and all these things? But again, a good friend of mine, he's a math teacher. He goes, inch by inch, math is a cinch, right? So you do things in steps, and providing any kind of support and frames for candidates is absolutely going to be welcome, and make sure that what they say is going with the topic, right? And making sure they understand exactly what the commentary is asking. So excellent suggestion there.
And practice, practice, practice. That just so it's not just out of the blue. This is not the first time they're writing evidence-based commentary. It's something that's maybe incorporated into field work and coursework and something they're become more familiar with.
All right, so our big asks, I think, today are around making sure we try to get a LPA version of commentary watermark draft into the folder, that we talk about some video supports for faculty as they're supporting candidates moving forward. And was there something else that we want to make sure we write down, Julie?
I wrote down the PLC ideas for October.
Mhm.
I think that's about it. And of course, that LPA template.
Yes. Right.
Yeah. Remind us in the chat, though, if there's something we forgot.
Yes. All right. Let's see here. So yes, materials, maybe Xavier, if you wouldn't mind speaking to this, of how materials will be distributed to coordinators.
Yes, all of the materials will be available to coordinators through the CTC website. Actually, I'll go there real fast. So from the CTC homepage, you go to assessments and then just navigate to the assessment that you want to get materials for. I'll go to CalTPA, just as an example. Click on CalTPA for you to get to EdSped. And you come over to the far right, it says Faculty Policies and Resources. And then you'll want to scroll down to Assessment Materials. And then here you'll see zip folders that have all of the materials, in this case for CalTPA. So again, just go to the correct site for these. And then you'll notice that these are password protected. We'll be sending out a password for each of the folders so that you can get into them. But when everything is launched, the materials are available here in these zip folders. And then candidates will be able to access all the materials when they complete their registration. So they can either receive them from you, or again, when they register, they're able to get in there and access all of the documents.
What you see here are version 7 for the general ed, and then single subjects and multiple subjects in world language, and then it'll be version 3 that's available, and candidates are able to complete version 7 if they have an open registration for a version 7 assessment, or they completed another assessment. Let's say they completed cycle 1 in math and they've already met and they're single subject and they just need to do their cycle 2 and they've already been working on it and want to submit that. They have until June of 2026 to, June of 2026 to submit that version 7 document for single subject and world language. And version 3, if you have a EdSped candidate who has in mild, moderate support needs or extensive support needs who submitted cycle 1 and needs to submit cycle 2, maybe already met RECA, literacy through RECA. But if you have a candidate who started in cycle 1 and they're single subject and they did single subject physical education, they did cycle 1, they can take the version 1 of the CalTPA cycle 2 for single subjects. They are able to mix those together to complete them. And again, if you have any questions about how to advise a candidate, please email us so that way we can provide you some information. We know it's a whole lot to keep in your head with different versions and different assessments retiring and different assessments coming in. So we want to make sure that everyone has the most up-to-date information.
A quick note to that, Marissa. So everything that Marissa just shared with you information-wise is available in the CalTPA FAQ. So previously we were in the policies and resources. So if you just navigate back one page, then you can go to the FAQs, and then you can see information about, which version should I take? Can I still register for this one? How long would these be available? Can you combine 24 and 25 and the 25, 26 assessments, and some other FAQs? So a good resource. Actually, I'll go ahead and link this.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Xavier.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And I put our email addresses in the inbox
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Julie.
as a reminder.
All right, so some upcoming program supports and contact information. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. So CalPA office hours and PLCs, we do have program office hours that have started the first and third Fridays of each month. CalAPA is from 9 to 9:30. CalTPA, that includes PK3, multiple subjects, single subjects, and world language is 9:30 to 10. And the Ed Sped CalTPA is from 10 to 10:30. It's Julie and I and probably Xavier at all three meetings. So from 9:30 to 10:30, you have time to come and ask us questions. We'll be there the first and third Fridays of the month. We do have candidate office hours. Please advertise these with your candidates. CalTPA on Wednesdays from 4:15 to 5 p.m. and CalAPA on Thursdays from 4:15 to 5 p.m. So please let them know they are welcome to come to these office hours and get information. And we will be starting our monthly leadership PLCs, as we talked about, the second Friday of each month, starting in October from 9 to 10 for Cal TPA and 11 to 12 for Cal APA. And it is our hope to bring a good number of faculty, of coordinators, of all the different folks that support candidates through the Cal TPA and the Cal APA together. So you can share resources with one another, build community, and build relationships because it benefits all the teachers and leaders and teacher leaders in California. Is Pearson in need of assessors for any specific PA or cycles? Julie, we were just
Just
talking
writing
about that
back
one
to that.
today.
I was just writing back to that. So it's a great question, actually, Kimberly. I'm not really sure of exact needs for specific cycles or specific performance assessments, but I'm looking up the assessor application and I'm going to link it here in just a minute. So if you or others on your faculty, or you know someone who would enjoy doing that work, please share widely. Because we are training very shortly for this new version. So please feel free to apply. That'd be great.
We can go to the next slide. Okay, so for Cal APA, for candidates planning, right, they backwards map when they have to submit to receive their assessment reports. The second column there is if they submit their cycle by that date, they will receive their score reports by the following date. And this is published on the website, but we wanted to make, and that's a live link to the website once I PDF these slides and put them in the folder. We can go to the next slide. These are, oh, I think it says Cal APA. See, this is why I don't put the slides in before the presentation because I might need to fix something. So instead of Cal APA, that should be TPA on that second column. But Cal, if they submit by these dates, and they will receive their responses by those dates. And there's more submission cycles for Cal TPA than there are Cal APA. So there's a few extra dates. All right. Some upcoming Digging Deeper sessions are program guide and candidate supports. We will be going through program guides and we will have a watermark draft version of the Cal TPA program guide, and it is what we call it, a mega guide, because we wanted to put everything together in one PDF. So all the cycle ones for single subject and world language and MPA along with cycle twos and LPA are all together in one document, and we'll be going through those on Thursday, October 9th, as well as the program guide for Cal APA that is published and in that resource folder. That it says version 6 on there, and it is the right version. I know that we're on version 8 of documents, but the program guide was updated and it's in version 6. We'll be talking about coaching and mentoring teachers and leaders in November. And we'll be starting the year off right, supporting all educators. And hopefully that'll be a nice bringing the community together and having a good conversation of how to support folks going forward. And again, these are live links to register. Once I PDF this presentation, put it in the folder, you can register that way. We will also be advertising these in the PSD. All right. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Please do make sure your ADS is up to date. If you are unsure about who your ADS contact is, as this person is they would name who is receiving all of these important documents on September 23rd. The password to the password protected files that are on the website will be emailed out. So please make sure that your contact information is up to date. If you're unsure, if you have questions, please email us. Julie put the emails in the chat, but we do have a slide with some contact information. So we can go ahead and go to the next slide. CalAPA, CalTPA, and Education Specialist CalTPA email lists. You may have received notification of this meeting for multiples if you have signed up for multiple lists. I think it's better to get something 2 times than not get it at all. So if you are supporting CalAPA, CalTPA, or Education Specialist CalTPA, please sign up for these email lists, faculty. It's not just for coordinators, faculty, mentors, any kind of information coming out is sent to these lists. And oftentimes, what's in the PSD is sent out on these lists as well, especially right before meetings are going to happen. So that way we make sure that folks have the information. Okay, the next slide. CTC Commission office has moved. They're no longer at that 1900, was it 1900 Capitol Way? So they're in the Malee State Complex. So if you ever have to mail anything to the commission, this is their address. We do have some YouTube channels that we post our videos to, and so the links for those are here, and this video will be included on those channels. And absolutely, you may use any one of these videos to support candidates. We get emails from candidates all the time that say they watch videos of some of these faculty trainings and they're interested in the information because it helps support them through. So if there's anything here that you would like to share with candidates, you're more than welcome to. Thank you. Policy questions around TPA, EdSped, CalTPA, or CalAPA. So those are questions like when my candidate is doing something with commentary, I have a question about this, about a guide. But if I have a candidate and they're not able to register for the CalAPA because they used an old email address they don't have access to, and they need help getting into their account, those are more the technical side of the questions. And so there are some ES email addresses to send email questions to. If you send those questions to the CalTPA, EdSped, CalTPA, or CalAPA inbox, we would forward them to the ES email addresses. So if you want answers more quickly, the ES side are more those technical questions, and then the policy questions. I have this question about a candidate. Do they have to take the EdSped TPA? Here's their situation. Those more go on that policy side. And then we do have a link to our website here that has a lot of good information for candidates. All right, did
And I
I
just went ahead
miss
and
anything?
linked the CalTPA Faculty Resources Policy Resources webpage for CalTPA, Ed Specialist CalTPA, and CalAPA. So those are all in the chat.
Right. Anything we missed in the chat before we stop the recording?
Did you already answer the question about additional submission dates in December?
I don't think there have been any
Mhm.
established additional submission dates, and that would have to be a question that we'd ask of our partners at Pearson. So we can bring that up because I recognize that the materials were released later than anticipated, and so we can perhaps bring that up. Anything else?
Great chat conversation as well.
Mhm.
Thank you all again for being here and for supporting your candidates and your programs and all of your faculty at your institution. And we know it's a heavy lift and we appreciate your time. We hope this was helpful to you. And thank you all again for being here.